I'm logged in today as the admin to talk about Form Designer. Form Designer allows you to make small changes that have a big impact on the way you work with iMaint. When you open the Form Designer, you'll see a list of existing forms in iMaint that you can copy and edit. These edits can be as simple as requiring a field, changing a label, or you can use your new custom form to scale down and remove some of the information that you don't necessarily need while working with iMaint. The form that most people want to copy, of course, is the work order form. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly make a copy by hitting the duplicate button, and I'm going to call this one Mechanics Work Order. Okay, so we have a new Mechanics Work Order that I can open. There is a ton of information on the primary, secondary, and asset procedure tabs. But what if you didn't need the user-defined fields tab or the assign to tab? Well, that's easy. You can select this tab by clicking on it, or there's a way to make sure you select the appropriate thing, and it's the safest way to select. You could right-click, hit select, and make sure you select the entire tab page for user-defined fields. Right now, the only thing that's highlighted is the data grid. So if I make sure to select the entire tab, I can hit delete and it's removed. So that scales down the work order a little bit. What if you wanted to move some of the fields from the secondary tab to the primary tab? Well, you can do that too using the same process of selecting. Make sure that you put your cursor in the field and either copy or cut, or use the right-click menu to select the field. You're selecting the lookup field of supervisor ID, or if you wanted to go down to copy, you copy supervisor ID. So there's a couple of ways to do it, but just make sure that you're getting the right field and then come over and paste it. Then once you get it on your primary tab, you can use the arrow keys over here to move it around. So if I move it right here under description and I want to make it a little bigger, I can use this arrow key over here to increase the width. Now the only thing I would caution you against deleting is the totals tab, because once you delete that, you can't get it back. If you wanted to set the format on date fields, you just pick a date field, and then under date format there's a drop down menu. If you want to see, right now it's set to date and time. If you just wanted to see the date, you could pick date only, or if you just wanted to see month and day, you could do that as well. There is a masking field for freeform text fields like the reference field. If you wanted to set a format against that field, for example, if you wanted to make your end users put in a phone number, you could format it using the key below. For labels, here's a reference field. You know it's a freeform text field that holds up to 25 characters. If you go over 25, the table behind the scenes cannot hold it. But say you wanted to change the length of the description field, it's 225. You could reduce that to 25 and save that change, but you can't go over what's already there. But back to the reference field. If you wanted to use these 25 characters and call it something else, you can do so. But note, behind the scenes, it's still labeled as the reference field. So if you are changing a label on this field here, any reports will still say referenced anywhere this field is used. If you want to change the name of a field system-wide, we suggest using the labels and translations under the admin menu. Now, you can add fields by using this add button. So I'm on the primary tab and I can add fields to this tab, but the trick is they have to already be existing in the table. I can't just create a blank new field for use. It already has to be something that exists within iMaint's work order header table. So this is your list to choose from. One thing to note also is the different types of fields. This is a lookup field with the little magnifying glass. If I hit project and I wanted to add the project field on this tab, I hit OK and there it is. Back on the primary tab, let me expand this one project field real quick. So let's talk about required fields now. You cannot unrequire a system required field like status ID, work type ID, date scheduled, original scheduled date. These that are already required by default cannot be unrequired because these are pieces of data that iMaint needs to function. So we have to have them required. If you wanted to require your users to enter data, you can highlight a field and require it, but be careful where you do so. A good example would be careful requiring fields within any of the sub-tabs on the Asset Procedure tab. So if you had a field within the sub-tab of downtime that you wanted to require, you would come to the Asset Procedure tab and then click in the Downtime sub-tab box and launch the Edit tool. This will show you any field within the downtime grid. Now, if I clicked on, there's only one field I can require, and that's comments. I cannot unrequire date, downtime type, or downtime hours, but I can require users enter comments when they are putting in a downtime record. Now, if a user creates a work order, puts their labor hours on it, estimates and issues parts to it, but never touches this downtime tab, they can complete and save and complete a work order without having put in the downtime hours or comments that we've required. So I'm going to save my new work order form, and you can use the preview button to launch a preview of what you've saved. But before we start teaching you how to deploy this new form that we've made, I want to mention something about quick work orders and editing those. And then I want to show you a trick on the task detail form. So we've been talking about editing the full work order, and we've created our new mechanics work order. But a lot of people also want to edit the quick work order. Now, under the work orders module in iMaint, we do offer a quick work order, and it is meant for corrective and emergency maintenance where you only have one asset, one procedure, and then on the secondary tab you're allowed to put in one meter, one assigned to ID, which happens to be the primary assigned to ID if you flip to the full work order form, and one code and one downtime record. The details are a little different too. You can estimate labor hours, but you can't estimate parts and miscellaneous costs. So anything you put on this form is actually issued parts or miscellaneous costs. This form is technically already a custom form. But in order to give you a head start with creating a form similar to the quick work order form, we have created a template called the simple work order form, and I've already made a copy, and I'm going to open it real quick, and it looks very similar to the quick work order form where you have a primary, secondary, and details. But on the primary tab you have functionality to allow you to have more than one asset, more than one procedure. You have that asset procedure grid. On the secondary tab you have more than one opportunity to put in a meter, more than one downtime record can be applied, and more than one assigned to. We also have the same quick work order details where you can estimate labor, but you're actually putting in what you issued from inventory and miscellaneous costs. So we hope this form will help you narrow down the work order to be more like the quick work order, but it still gives you the ability to add multiple records on the asset and procedure grid. One other form that people ask about and that is the task details. So if you have an employee who puts in tasks and they are complaining that the task details are too small, so for instance, I'm going to quickly launch the task window. This block of text is really small for a lot of people. You have to scroll to see all your steps. So a lot of people want to make this a little bigger. So by creating the new form, you can do so. Just highlight the task details and use this minimum height is set to 0. Make it really big. I keyed in 250 to enlarge it. I'm going to hit save and I'll close it. Now let's deploy these two custom forms that we've created. Still logged in as the administrator. To deploy these new custom forms, you open the custom navigation tree module. Then you will search through the existing navigation trees and make a copy of one that most fits your need. So we have a Mechanic 2 custom navigation tree that we have copied, and the mechanics can only enter or see the nodes on the navigation tree for work orders, work requests, scheduling, procedures and tasks, and assets, inventory, and reports and graphs. So if you click on the module for work orders and then the work order form itself, you can see where you attach the custom form. We've attached the custom form for mechanics work order. We've also said that they will be accessing the new larger task details custom form we designed. So once I have this created and saved, I can deploy this custom navigation tree to one user or many users by going into Security, selecting your user, opening the user profile, and assigning the custom navigation tree here. So the next time Kristen logs in, she'll see her new navigation tree that is scaled down. And when she accesses the work orders, she'll see the one with no user-defined fields. The supervisor field was moved up top, the project ID down here, and I forgot to remove the requirement to enter downtime codes, so that would be still required. And she gets to see the new enlarged task detail form. Thank you for taking the time to watch the Form Designer clip. If you have any questions or you'd like more information on how to design custom forms, please contact your customer account manager or professional services for training.